So as I was thinking about today, there are just so many things going on in the world right now, and they don't just mean the social and political chaos that's happening in the US, but the pandemic that's happening literally everywhere and affects, I'm sure, every one of you in some way or another. And I've been thinking about the crises that seem to be hitting one after the other, and just what do you do in the middle of such chaos? I mean, thinking about what we know about Buddha nature and about things in the absolute sense being okay in some way. Should we accept things exactly as they are, knowing ultimately they'll all work out, resting in this intrinsic Buddha nature that we have, sometimes called the absolute non-dual reality. But I love what Jack Kornfield says about Buddha nature. He says, knowing your Buddha nature, that's really good, it's fine, but you also need to know your zip code. And what he meant by that is your connection to this world, recognizing that we are indeed in the world and we're connected to everyone and everything around us. But from here, from this place, just 2 days after the January 6th attack in the US Capitol, Dan Harris of 10% Happier did an hour-long interview with John Kabat-Zinn, which he called National Trauma, Now What? It turned out Dan had emailed John immediately after the attack and said, could he do an interview the next day? And amazingly enough, he agreed, and they did the interview on just a couple of days after the attack on the 8th. So it's an hour-long interview, so I can't play it all for you. But it's a wonderful interview, and I'm going to play the last 8 minutes of it. And if you listen closely, you can hear allusions to our Buddha nature, about how all things are perfect just as they are, and we are perfect just as we are, with no need to change or do anything. But also the references to our zip code reality, and that place from which we can take action and make a difference. So it's audio, so it's nothing to see. But I'm going to use screen share here so that so you can hear it all well. So let me do that. And this will be about 8 minutes.
And this is a moment that needs all hands on deck. And then we need to be in dialogue, not with people who are in our little thought bubble and that think alike and that meditate and everything else, but precisely at those interfaces with the people who see things very, very differently from ourselves. How that's going to unfold, I don't know. But I myself am pretty optimistic that we human beings and even we Americans are really capable of digging deep into our true nature and coming up with something that is authentic, that's robust, that's true, that's ethical, that's kind, that cares. And that's now our karmic assignment as a country and as a species.
And you're calling on everybody listening and everybody, full stop, to get involved. And I want to be clear, at least my understanding of what you're saying in terms of getting involved, taking action. It doesn't have to be grandiose. It can be as simple as, helping out your neighbor. It can be as simple as voting. And
Totally. And let's say it, in terms of voting, it wasn't that simple. I mean, it took a lot of work to get people to vote, especially in the face of voter suppression, systematic, organized voter suppression by elected officials throughout the country, not just in Georgia. So, this is a slow arc. It's a long process that we're involved in, but the stakes are incredibly high. So the real challenge, or Zen koan, if you like, is what is right action? What is mine to do that would contribute, even the tiniest little ways, to the well-being of the world, the well-being of my community, the well-being of whatever it is, not from the point of view of self-centered self-interest, but from the point of view of a we rather than a me. We, that's the first word in the U.S. Constitution, we. And I think we've reached the point where we need to really reflect in very, very profound ways about how tiny little contributions and even intention and motivation can make huge amplified changes in the world. In fact, that's the only way change ever happens, is by people being creative and getting out of their own way and not being imprisoned by the routinized patterns of their own thought and then emotional reactivity, including fear, and including saying things like, I'm not worthy, or I'm not smart enough, or I'm too old, or I'm too young, or I'm too out of it, or whatever it is. No, you are already complete. The only thing that will happen to you over time is that you'll get older. So, however old you are, this is the perfect moment to find out who you are in the deepest of ways. And it's not your narratives in your head about who you are or who you're not. So that's where awareness comes in, because your awareness can hold all that instantly. It's not like then you have to go to meditation school for 40 years. Instantly, in no time, you can hold that and investigate for yourself, am I larger than my narratives? And it's, impossible not to recognize instantly that you're larger than your narratives. And then you don't need to be stuck in those stories of me and how inadequate I am or how fearful I am or anything else. And you can trust in awareness, in your heart, in heartfulness as much as mindfulness. That word, by the way, is in most Asian languages, the word for mind and the word for heart is the same word. So we're talking about, when we talk about mindfulness, we're really talking about something that doesn't separate us from our own love, from our own hearts. And I might as well throw in that I really see meditation practice as a radical act of sanity. Waking up is like, it's not a luxury, it's an absolute necessity in this moment of time. And it's a radical act of sanity to stop and drop into the present moment and to not believe your thoughts. I mean, I had a bumper sticker once that said, don't believe everything you think. I've come around to thinking maybe it should have said, don't believe anything you think, unless you hold it in awareness first and ask deep questions about its validity. Because awareness itself is much more discerning than usually the thinking, the cognitive function that we come up with. We have so many other intelligences. And so I really feel like it's up to us. Maybe yesterday was a wake-up call for a lot of people, but a lot of us have woken up a long time ago, and it's like, okay, now what? And I feel like in a certain way, it's funny for me to say it, but I feel very patriotic about this. I really feel like there's something about us as humans, as Americans, but as humans, where we can do this. We have the repertoire, we have all the ingredients, but we need to, in some sense, care enough to do it. And what makes us care? Suffering. When the suffering becomes too overwhelming, then we start to look around for liberation from suffering. That's what meditation practice is all about, is the direct recognition of the potential for liberation from suffering through action and through stillness. And they're not two separate things. They're, again, like two wings, one bird. Stillness, incredibly important to really learn how to inhabit the domain of awareness. But on the other hand, taking it out into the world, when the world is on fire, you don't sit there and meditate on your meditation cushion. You run in and, rescue other people and put the water on to whatever degree, even if it's a fire hose, that's okay, And you take care of others first, just like the oxygen mask falling out of the airplanes that we no longer fly on. You put the oxygen mask on yourself first because you have to take care of yourself so you can be of use to others. So it's not a selfish act. So meditation is not a selfish act. It's a selfless act. It's a recognition that who we think we are, what we think of as ourself, is infinitesimal element of a much larger domain of being that is we can grow our way into by listening deeply to our own hearts and to the suffering in ourselves and the suffering in each other, the beauty in ourselves and the beauty in each other.
So as scary and uncomfortable as crises are, a significant crisis often creates great openings once it wouldn't have happened otherwise, emergent possibilities that weren't apparent before. In Buddhist philosophy, it said that there's 3 marks of existence that nobody escapes. And they are suffering, impermanence, and no self. That is, nobody's exempt from suffering, and nothing lasts forever. And the no self is the most subtle of the 3. And maybe you could say that just we are not who we think we are. Or as John Kabat-Zinn puts it, he has sort of a street version of this, which is he calls the 3 marks of existence. Instead of saying suffering, impermanence, and no self, he says shit happens, everything changes, and it's not about you anyway. In each of these, suffering, impermanence, and no self, there are potential gifts. It's only through suffering that we would really come to develop empathy or understanding or compassion. It's only because of impermanence that we have growth and emergence, excitement or surprise. And it's not by being solely identified with our usual view of ourselves that we have the basis for community and wholeness and the true embracing of the world, the people around us. So that's going to be the theme for today's discussion. It has to do with the possibility that comes from crisis. In a couple of minutes, we'll start the meditation. It'll be about maybe 15 minutes or so. All right, so we're all set. Keith will arrange for people to be in the proper breakout rooms when the time comes. And we'll begin now with the meditation. And if you just want to make yourself comfortable, I'm going to move around in my squeaky chair so I can do that. And just take a moment to settle into where you are right now. Just feeling where you're making contact with the floor, with your feet or your legs, where you're sitting on a cushion or chair or couch. Just notice how your hands and your arms are resting in your lap. And when you're ready, finding breath, wherever that is for you, or wherever you want to focus your attention right now. You may be noticing your breath in your tummy or your chest or your throat. If you've been on speaker view, put the screen on gallery view so you're not distracted. I'm going to turn my video off in a second. And just letting your breath be your breath. Actually feeling the movement of your breath, the rhythm of your breath. And whatever thoughts or memories or images come up, just letting them be and bring awareness back to the sensations of breathing. There's nothing to do, nowhere to go. remembering that this is a gentle process. So if you're distracted by a thought or a memory or a worry or a concern, they're not pushing that away, but just noticing, acknowledging that, and then gently but firmly coming back to breath. It's easy for the mind to go off into things that we're concerned about. And with so much difficulty in the world, it's easy to take the good things in our life for granted. And seeing if you can right now reflect and recall something in your life, think about something in your life that you're grateful for right now. Could be a spouse or partner, a family member, a good friend, or even a pet. It could be being able to do work that you love, or living in a great location or community. Or having good health and or relative security. It's whatever comes up that you're grateful for. And letting yourself rest in that gratitude. And there may be several things that come up as you reflect. In the next 6 or 7 minutes, we'll be in silence. And you can continue on this theme of gratitude, or you can focus on breath and just make it your own meditation, however you want it to be for you, because this time is your time. And the sound of the chime will end the meditation.